Up the conversation online. Here we go. Streaming, set everything setting up. Love how this is doing. Awesome. And don't let me forget here. I need just to start the recording. And we are a go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this evening's conversation as part of Medium's World, where I have the honor of interviewing my very dear friend and colleague and coach and my go-to for so many things in my life, my dear friend and top clairvoyant Carlin Ray, who is joining us tonight for a spotlight interview. Carlin
Hi,
Ray has
everybody.
been in this industry for over 30 years. She has seen it all. She has done it all. She has so much wisdom and so much to share with us here tonight. Oh
It's
my gosh,
bad.
it's good.
It's bad. As soon as I hear that many years, I'm like, oh, okay.
I
First of all, now you've
know.
just justified I'm really old. I'm old.
I
Yeah,
know.
no,
I
I've been
think
doing it a
you're
long
really
time.
wise. It's
We'll go with
wisdom. It's
that.
wisdom. It's
I like
wisdom.
that way. And you know what? I'll tell all my grandchildren that moving forward. I'm not old, you guys. I'm wise.
I'm
Smart now.
wise.
Yeah, I'll use
Exactly.
that moving forward.
Now, for those of you who have never met Carlin Ray before, she is, as I said, she's Canada's top clairvoyant. Her and I have just recently launched our new YouTube channel, which is called Beyond Belief,
Yeah,
and where we are showing up every single week to help and support you along this incredible crazy journey of being a medium, a psychic, an energy sensitive, and the whole schematics of everything that the universe has to offer. We are delving into all kinds of things in our conversations. And this is
yeah,
really fun because instead of us having this is kind of like one of our conversations we would have,
yeah.
except I'm taking the host chair where I'm going to be interviewing her tonight which is kind of funny. We've never done it this way before.
Nope, no, we haven't. But I'm all yours, honey. You can the one thing you're guaranteed is I'll tell you even what you don't want to hear. So you can ask me anything.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right. Oh my gosh, exactly. Well, so
yeah.
first and foremost, when I first met Carlin Ray, I had a reading with her and I was so blown away. And I knew I needed to have her in my backyard, in my back pocket, so that I could really move what was a self-imposed barrier or ceiling
Mhm.
in terms of my own business and my own self. And I
Yeah.
really felt compelled to work with her. So I reached out and I didn't hear back. I was like, I thought, well, that's really kind of odd. And anyway, I know. And I'm like, okay. So I sent her another email and I said, I'm not sure whether you got my previous email or not, but I'm really interested in working with you and would love to have a discovery call
Yeah.
about it. And she was very forthright and honest and said, she actually doesn't work with people in the industry. And so she
I
was,
didn't.
no. And she was like ready to say,
Yeah.
no,
No.
not happening.
My answer is usually no in this up until you. Up until
Right.
you. Now
I
my
know.
answer is yes all the time, but there was a period of time where someone in this industry would call me and be like, "I'm sorry, I'm on vacay. I don't know, I can't
No,
help
yeah,
you."
yeah, sorry. No room at
No.
the end.
No room at the inn. Yeah, my guides have left. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah.
And what
As you
was
can
really
imagine, I had bad experiences in this industry being
yes,
as long as I've been in it, right? So in the beginning, it
absolutely.
was a very toxic environment. So
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. And one of the things that came up from our time in moving into this was you said
yeah,
to me right from the get-go, you said, okay, you're a medium.
yeah,
Awesome. And so I just want you to know I don't do this stuff, but my grandfather on the other side said I'm supposed to work with you. And
yeah.
I kind of giggled and laughed because I'm like, yeah, so here you're someone who says I'm not a medium and I can't, this isn't my part
Yeah.
of my world. And yet you're hearing your grandfather talk to you. So I'm thinking that
Mhm.
was kind of comical right there and then. But
Yeah. So, funny story. The first time a dead person ever communicated with me, I'm just going to share this guy. So, I've been a clairvoyant my entire life. I'm a seer, and everything I see is like really fast movies going on in my head. So, whenever I enter anybody's sort of space, I tap into their entire life. It just goes on a really fast sort of video for me. And so, I was probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years into the business. And I was working out of a place in Cochrane, and they booked my sessions for me. It was a little restaurant, and this little old lady and her adorable husband came and sat down for a reading. And even back then, I couldn't understand why old people wanted to come to me for a reading. because I was always so worried when an older person would come and sit down. Because how the hell am I going to tell you? You're dying at some point. I'm not like, I'm the person that tells you how to make everything amazing happen in your life. So when I get an 80-year-old come and sit across me, I'm like, good news, your grandkids are going to do amazing. Right? So this little old couple comes and sits across from me at where I'm doing my readings. And it happened to be the first day that I forgot to bring my stuff with me. So I was all nervous because I used to pretend that I read cards and I forgot them. I was running my son to the daycare and I forgot them. Anyway, they're sitting there and she's so excited to be able to sit with me, and we're having this conversation, and her husband keeps hitting on me and I'm giggling at him. Like, I'm thinking, oh, you just perverted old man. Like, you're so cute. And she continues to talk to me. And then he lights up a cigar and I looked at him and I'm like, sir, you can't smoke in here. And he just smiled, continues his cigar. And his wife's looking at me like, so I looked over at her. I'm like, look, I mean, your husband's freaking adorable. Like, he really is, but he can't keep smoking in here. Can you please? Because he's ignoring me. And so obviously he doesn't have a lot of respect for the psychic. So could you please tell him? So she leans over. She's like, ma'am, that's why I'm here. And I'm like, you're here for your husband? And she's like, my husband died like last year. And I was like, excuse me? She's like, he died last year. And I'm looking right at him, right? And I'm like, and so I described him. I'm like, does your husband look like this? And she went, yeah. And I jumped out of my chair. I ran into the kitchen at the Joe Bailey's. I ran behind Lance, who was the owner and chef, crying. I'm like, get rid of her, get rid of her, get rid of her. I'm losing it. Like, I'm shaking him like it's an earthquake, right? Like, I'm losing my mind. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, that person in the restaurant, that person. I lost it. He kicked her out. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't. Like, I don't like it. I like not being in control.
I remember you said you're going to leave the talking to the dead people up to me, and you're going to help them
100%.
create their most amazing life. That's, we're just.
And I think that works for the two of us, truly.
Yeah.
You can talk to them all, and I will just go into your soul and tell you how to have a spectacular life. This is good for me. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I know, but you bring up something. There's, for a vast majority of mediums, this is exactly what we go through. Is there is absolute resistance to it. I know, even for myself, it was like, no way, no, go away. I'm not doing this. I'm not going to be your person. No. I am not going to be. This is not me. And I refused it, and I refused it, and refused it until I couldn't refuse it anymore. So,
that was me with clairvoyance.
Here I am. Yeah,
that was me with clairvoyance. So far, I mean, outside of recently, my whole trans-channeling debacle, outside of that, so far I did really good at keeping it a distance. Now, like, we're talking, I manifested years where I didn't have to talk to anyone dead. It was lovely.
I like that. If you guys caught that, it was lovely. Did you hear that? I always say, when people start hanging out with me, things really start to get a little weird.
And if I knew that at the time, I would have never let her work with me. Just so you guys all know, if I'd have known, obviously I can't be that good of a clairvoyant if I couldn't put that together. Yeah, I know. Bad.
Oh my gosh. Well, before we dive into some of the most recent experiences that you've had, Carlin Ray, I just would love for you to share. I mean, you're someone, as we said, has been in this industry for over 30 years. And I didn't say that in order to make you feel old, but it's just like, you've seen and done it all. And I think this, there's so much fear for a lot of mediums in stepping forward and starting to do, even I'm going to say, we don't even have to say mediums, but for healers, for clairvoyants,
intuitives,
and intuitive people coming forward to do energy work. There's still such a cloud of fear-based consciousness that exists around it, and a big resistance to people, moving forward with their abilities and their gifts in the world. And so for you, I would love for you to share a little bit about what the last 30 years has been like. It couldn't have been easy all those years ago.
No. So when I first, so obviously I was clairvoyant my whole life. My very first sort of vision that my family can recall, I was in between 2 and 3 years old. We were at an outing, and I visually watched my mom get T-boned in her car in a total different location. And nobody could understand what I was saying till the police showed up and showed what had happened to my mom's car. And my uncle then registered what I was screaming and pointing at and trying to get his attention for. So I've been having visions, sort of my whole life. And when I started, so I'm just going to back up and say, I didn't know a lot about psychics. I was raised a Catholic, so obviously I didn't know what these abilities were. And I had heard about a psychic one day in Calgary and thought I had nothing to lose. And I went to go see her and she wouldn't read for me. The only thing, she told me two things. She told me that I was a clairvoyant, didn't understand what that meant at the time. For me, that was Swahili. And she told me that I was going to marry a man with a hunter green leather couch. So needless to say, I haven't advertised her at all. I don't think that she's necessarily as good as she should be. But when she said the word clairvoyant, something sort of triggered in my head. So I started my own business and legitimately what I did, and it was a lot different back then. I legitimately took a piece of paper. I put psychic readings. I put my name. I put my phone number on the bottom. I cut the little lines, when you used to see, about to age myself, when you used to see, in the co-op.
Yes, in the billboards and the community boards where you can go and see where the garage sales are posted.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And I was a single mom who had literally just walked out of a very severely abusive marriage, and I had a newborn when I did this. And so, the one advantage that I had was that I was getting assistance from the government to be able to get out and to do the restraining orders and do all those things with my ex-husband. And so I had that advantage in the sense that at least I knew that the bills were getting paid. There was, back then I had Calgary housing. And so I knew that I could at least cover for a few months while I was with the government on assistance, but that was not something that I ever was going to stay on. So I started literally with a piece of paper on a mailbox, and it was about, I got probably 4 or 5 readings. And then I got a phone call, believe it or not, from my uncle, one of my very favorite human beings. And he called me and he said, honey, your mom tells me that you're finally doing readings. And I'm like, what do you mean finally? Like, I just figured out this is what I can do. He's like, your auntie and I have been waiting forever. Can I please book 45 sessions? I was like, what? And he did. He booked 45 sessions for every person that worked for him. So my uncle was self-employed and he booked them, and he took turns driving them all down in vans to Calgary to come get readings done. So that's amazing. Legitimately how my business started. As it turns out, him and my auntie had told my mom many, many years ago, my mom and dad, that I was going to blow people away one day. So when he found out that this is what it was, he just knew immediately this was what my path was. So I've been doing it full time ever since. But back when I started, I understand that and so, please understand, for me, the negativity that you guys all see now, to me, is total and complete acceptance. Okay. I have never seen our industry be so accepted. If I was coming in today, the joy that I would feel because of how accepted what we do is now, right? Like, I still remember the first time I was asked to public speak at a Catholic school as a clairvoyant and promote what I do. Like, it was the biggest deal. And this was 15 years ago. It was the biggest deal I had ever heard of, right? When I got into this business, nobody could know where I lived. I have literally had stakes burning on my front lawn. I've had my children's lives threatened. I've had to have security and protection when I've gone to do public events. What exists now is phenomenal compared to when I started. Mm-hmm. Right. And it was such a toxic environment. So even the industry, because you're trying to figure out who you are. So if you're anything like the rest of us, you're trying to figure this out. So you go and you find people in this industry, in this world, so you can try to find that place that you fit. And back then, especially, I can't say the same today because I haven't really associated myself. I've sort of, I just made a point after I had had such bad experience early on that I just wasn't interested in I don't understand how something so uplifting and so amazing and how I can make such a significant difference in people's lives and be judged and ridiculed and graded by the same community of my peers, right? It just doesn't, I don't get that. Right. I don't get that. Uh-huh. So, and it was toxic. Because that was the first thing I did too, just like everybody else. I went and found out about the psychic fairs and I went and met them all. And there were a few things that I seen right away. First of all, I seen that they were all poverty stricken. And I was like, oh my Like, no, I don't want to be, I want to be wealthy. I don't want to be poverty stricken. Right. So I seen everybody was all poverty stricken. And, I see these readers that are in their 80s and 90s, and I'm looking at them going, why are you still reading? And they're like, well, because I need to put food on the table. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Like, what do you mean? Like, you have such a powerful gift. What do you mean? Right. So between that and between the stories and the rumors that would get told everywhere and the competition, and I never understood that, because the whole point of being a seer, the whole point of being put here to do this is that the people that need me will come to me, and the people that need you will come to you. And there frankly will never be enough of us. So there's nothing to be competitive about. We can actually all help each other.
Right.
We can all help each other, right? There's our personalities like different things. The work that we thrive on is different than what someone else is. Like, there's so much we could do to empower each other. And it is the most toxic community I have ever experienced in my life. So I ran as far as I could. No, I'm also sort of the personality of, please go ahead and underestimate me, because that'll just be fun for the both of us. That's sort of my more, go ahead, tell me I can't. Like, go ahead, right? So I went through, but that's the other thing you got to understand. I went through the banks wouldn't give you a business account if you were a psychic. It took me 8 years to finally get a merchant account. I was the very first clairvoyant in Canada to ever have actually gotten a merchant account so that I could have my own merchant machine as a clairvoyant. Now, by then I'd already taken my psychology, so I could have gotten it as a therapist, but I had something to prove, right? So it was very, the negative connotations, the lack of belief in the expertise of it, the judgment from the peers. It was a very toxic way to build your business. But I originally wanted to be a lawyer. So
I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Right? Like, that's originally what I wanted to do. But every time I tried to not do what I can do, I'd get sick. So I was sort of left with no choice. And I did so many things. I went and got 2 degrees so that I could create some validity, so that people would stop telling me that I'm Satan's little spawn, right? I got kicked out of my church that I was an active member of. So instead, I went and got my master's in theology and became a venerable archdeacon through the Lutheran organization for 1 year so that I could go take over that church service. And I did. I walked in, made him sit down, and took over the service, right? Like, I am very much the go ahead and underestimate me, because it's just going to be fun for us both, right? So, but it was an uphill climb. Yes. So I understand the fear 34 years ago. But here's the thing that's like, here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand also about this industry. First of all, I get to spend my entire life making a spectacular, substantial difference for every person that enters my space. There is nothing that is more fulfilling to me than my work. Okay. I have built such a successful career that I was supporting my family completely. But I retired my husband in 2007. And when he was working in the IT industry, he paid for my assistant. Okay. So I've supported my family of 8 my entire career. We have 6 kids, my husband and I. I lived in a beautiful executive home with a swimming pool and a theater and a pool table. I've driven the most expensive vehicles on the market. I've had a new age store. I had a 8-year radio show and a 4-year in Calgary and a 4-year radio show in Montreal. My TV show was completely piloted and just on the process of being sold when I walked away from all of it to work on my health. So there's not a whole lot I haven't done in this industry. I've literally been, I've solved thousands and thousands of cases. I've worked with thousands, tens of thousands of people. I do big, huge live shows. Like, there isn't anything I've ever haven't done. And I can tell you that if I can build this business while working part-time as a phone sex operator so that I can pay my bills while I build my business in 1988, 89, 90, you can do this.
Yeah.
You can do this. There is so many more options, so much has changed.
Well, I think technology alone, like what
Yeah.
technology has opened up and has become possible because, this is where we begin to understand that
Yeah.
our clients are not necessarily in our community, that
No.
it's a community that is a global community, and that we
Yeah.
have, all of this way in which to enact and show up for each other around the globe. And it's really closed the distance. And I
Yeah.
think in some ways it's become it's less isolating than it was,
Yeah.
all those years ago when you first started too.
Well, and I'm very lucky because word of mouth is probably the best way to build any business. And
Yeah.
I one of my gifts is unconditional love, and so clients get very close to me very quickly. They trust me. They know that I truly do care about what matters and happens in their life, and they know that sort of from the moment you've experienced it.
Yeah.
So I'm very lucky in that sense. But I've had global clients. I mean, I have clients in Abu Dhabi. I have clients in South Africa. I have clients in Europe. I have clients in Costa Rica. I have clients in Belize. I have clients in Milan. I have clients in China. I have clients in Hong Kong. And I have for 30 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just now it's so much easier because now they can come to me on video.
Right.
Versus, calling me with these international phone calls and having to do a phone session, right? And
Right.
somehow find a way to get me their pictures. And, you don't have to do this in person anymore. I haven't been in person in years, right? So you don't have to be in person. I think that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me was COVID, because it was about a year and a half before that my gut just said, you need to stop working in person, Carlin, you got to go online. So
It's
I
really
did.
interesting because that was just before that year and a half to 2 years. That was
Yeah.
just before we met each other.
Yeah.
And I know I had already got the same thing. It was like
Yeah.
to move my business online. And it was so great because I didn't get hit in the
None.
same way of
Yeah.
scrambling to figure everything
No.
out because it was already in place.
Yeah.
But the other piece of it, when we look and understand the sensitivity that we have energetically, and it's actually allowed me the privilege of seeing more clients on a
Yes.
daily basis than
Me
what I
too.
could actually do in person.
Me too. And here's the thing you got to understand, as much as I love what I do, I am very much a successful businesswoman. That is my claim to fame, right? Being a clairvoyant is just how I do it, if
Right.
that makes any sense. For me, I thrive in the business. And, I've been making, I won't get out of bed for $250,000 a year. And I haven't gotten out of bed for $250,000 a year for over a decade, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because people will talk to me and they're like, what are you going to do when you retire? I'm like, I don't know if I could work much less.
Right. Right.
To make an absolute, very successful living. And I've only worked 3 days a week.
Yeah.
6-hour days for 35 years.
And the other thing that's so important for people, because I know this is so great because so many of the people coming into it are starting out, they're starting their own businesses, to learn that just what can be possible, just to hear that it can be so much more than what they believe is possible for themselves, but to also understand this work is not about the money. The money is it happens and it grows, but it's about the impact. It's about the tens of thousands of people in whom we get to help and serve. It's about helping others and being of service. And to me, it's like the money is the candy. The money is what helps me sustain my home. It's what pays my bills.
See, I agree with that to some degree. And I'm going to apologize in advance to anyone that's
listening
because I'm lucky if I agree with that to about 15%. Okay. Because for me, I'm going to explain this in a different way. So first and foremost, my business is absolutely about the money. Okay. I am the Jerry Maguire, show me the freaking money. But
the work.
But here's what, but it's, the difference is, and no, I need to take that back because it's not a difference. It doesn't matter what business it is. It's always the same. If I am not really successful, okay, my success is my oxygen, if that makes any sense. Okay, my success, my never having to worry about how the bills are paid, my never worrying about whether I want to upgrade my house, my never worrying, if I'm bored of my car after 9 months and I want to go trade it in, my never worrying about how we're going to pay for the big diamonds, or my never worrying about money is an energy saver. So it means all of my energy, all of my energy, all of my empathy, all of my awareness, all of my understanding, all of my love can go to each and every different person that's sitting across from me. Okay. Yeah. I can't give the same if I'm struggling.
Yes.
Because I'm worrying. No matter what I'm telling you, no matter how good I'm telling you your world might be or what you need to do to work on it, if I'm worrying about mine, because I don't care what anyone says, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, we're all self-thought. Okay.
Yes.
If I'm worried about mine, I cannot help you with yours. I can't. And either can you, any of you, right? Yeah. So it is an absolute integral part. It's actually how I know I'm on the right path. See, people think that because they're using their gifts, which you and I have had conversations because this is not my gift, but people believe that because they're using their gifts, they're living their path. Okay. I know I'm living my path because of how easy the universe allows me to live. Right. And my financial success comes with that.
Right.
Right. That's the universe. And I work for it. I just don't work as hard as people. Like I still work for it. I'm a work harder, not smarter kind of girl. I work smarter, not harder kind of girl.
But it's also about living and working in alignment with the laws of the universe
100%.
too. I mean, that's a big factor in 100%. All of this.
I can't pay it forward the way that I pay it forward either.
Right.
If I'm not, financially set, I can't do the things that I do. I mean, I've literally helped people start their lives over again financially. I've done, you know what I mean? Like I can't be the universe's helper if I'm not full.
Yes.
Right. So it's important.
Totally.
And I think that what gets in the way of our businesses, our intuitive businesses, is our lack of belief in ourselves, our worth, and our message.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's just something I'm not confused about my message. I know my message.
Yeah.
It's very clear.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So we're going to just thank you so much because, oh my gosh, that's so powerful and so inspiring. When we look at, as I said earlier, when we first met, your grandfather had said, had talked to you and you were like, I'm not a medium. And, and I'm like, okay. And then we hung out for a while. And I mean, like so many people, you have experienced a very up close and personal loss over this last year. And, with the loss of your father and, of course, where my heart sits in that and how deeply I have compassion for everything
you've been so helpful
your family
with it.
Have gone through. One of the things that's most significant and I really would love for you to begin to share with people is that when your dad passed away, everything changed. Suddenly there was no denying that dead people were hanging out with you.
Yeah, I was super happy about that for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think my dad was, I think it was 3 or 4 days he'd been gone. And in those 3 to 4 days, he kept trying to connect to me, and I just assumed that he wasn't. I mean,
I think you were just waiting. You're like, Bonnie will get a message for me, and I'll 100%. Just wait for Bonnie. And I'm expecting it to
take Bonnie to take months because it takes time, right? Like you got to cross over, you got to go through your contract. I'm expecting that, like literally, he hasn't even been cremated yet, and I'm getting a push on the door. So so I really did try to ignore it. And then one night he decided to completely take over my body. And trans-channel himself to message for my mom and my sister. So now he is really, he enjoys. So when I was growing up, my father was a very strong man, and he used to guide me around everywhere holding the back of my neck. And now he guides me when he's got me channeling by holding the front of my throat. Wow. So it's gone from the back of my neck to the front of my neck. So as soon as I feel fingers on my throat, I'm like, oh, Dad, really? I still don't want to, but it's now when it's still a fight.
Yes.
Like it's not like I'm like, yay, let's have a conversation. Now I'm using some choice words before they actually start to come through, but now I've accepted that when they absolutely have to come through, then they can, but I don't want to be the one to communicate. So I think this is sort of that, I know it's such fun, that happy medium. I always think that's so funny when I say that. I think the happy medium for me is I'm going to let them do the talking. They can just take me over. It's just let me go have a coffee.
Leave me out of the equation of it. And
Because if not, I might take up smoking again. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was, I mean, it was really, I remember you saying to me
Yeah.
in that first, because you had never experienced
No.
the intensity of energy that mediums experience in
No.
communication with the non-physical world. And you said for you, you had, as a clairvoyant, you had always been in energy, you had
Yeah.
always been seeing it, working with
Yeah.
it, but you had never felt the enormity and intensity of what moves through us as
Yeah.
mediums from an energetic basis. I'd love
Well,
for you
because
to
it's all
speak a little bit
consuming.
about that.
Right? When it
Mm-hmm.
happened, it was just all consuming. I didn't have control of my senses, right?
Yeah.
Whereas being a clairvoyant, I have control of everything. I have control of what I'm going to say, where I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it, what I'm going to do with it. But he came through, I had zero control. And I'm a control freak, so that's a problem. But it was like it just my entire body, like the feeling of being lit up was really cool, but I was lit up and couldn't do anything.
Yes.
Right. So it was like, I don't know, the easiest way I could describe it, once I was on a medication that one of its side effects was sleep paralysis. And I experienced it on this medication. And that is the easiest thing that I can do to describe what it felt like as a medium, is that it was like I was paralyzed, but very alert and very aware. I just couldn't control anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't like it.
Right.
I mean, it
So
gave me a whole new respect for you guys, for sure.
Well, then I'm just going to say this is, and
Yeah.
again, we're talking to someone who's been in the industry. You've been
Yeah.
working and doing this work for 34 years. This is huge. And
Yeah.
just within this last year, for you to come into going like, oh my gosh, this is a whole different way of living. And that's what you
Yeah.
said. As you just
It's
shared,
completely
this
different. Yeah.
completely different.
And honestly, for me, I'm stubborn, right? I am super stubborn, and the universe is well aware of that because they're my creators, so they know. And so I truly do believe that I was able to fight it until my dad died. So I
Yeah.
understand now that they've been trying to get me to do this my entire life because it's just another aspect.
Yeah.
But it took the safety and security of my dad, because
Of course.
I love my grandpa and I trust my grandpa, but I trust my grandpa's going to make sure I win at poker. He's going to get me to location on time. He's going to get me driving somewhere safe. I know I'm going to see ravens because that's my grandpa traveling with me. Like, I
Yeah.
know he's always with me.
Yeah.
I know that if I was a smoker, he'd make sure I'd always have cigarettes. If I was a drinker, he'd make sure I'd always have booze. Like, I know that he can do those things, but there is no way I would let my grandfather take over my body so that somebody
Right.
could come through. Right.
Right.
So there is only one person on this planet that could ever do that. And that was my dad. He was my hero.
Yeah.
Right. I have been daddy's girl since I was born. I mean, my nickname was High Pockets. So if anyone, I had short little legs. So if anyone was going to be able to get through to me and make this happen, it was going to be my dad. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they gave me enough time, to be honest
Well,
with you. They were like, "Oh, you're here. Get her going. Let's
So
go."
your grandfather could do all of these things, and then it was your grandfather. You see how the universe works? They're like, hey, we're
Yeah.
gonna get Carlin's grandfather to say, you need to work with Bonnie so that
Yeah.
we can get her waking up to all of this
Exactly.
world and
Yeah.
start to bring this out. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
and then we'll get her seated and we'll get her
I learned a
happening.
long time ago not to question the universe. I know 99% of the time I'm pretty good at that until they tell me I want to talk to dead people, in which case I do a lot of
Right?
questioning. Yeah.
I remember you sending me a message and going, "Oh my gosh, I was doing a session for a client today and their loved one was sitting in my office the whole time. Why
Yeah.
is this? I don't want this."
I don't want this. I used to be really good at being able to, like, I could feel them.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I could still feel them because you can't do my work and not feel them too. Right.
Right.
So I could still
Exactly.
feel them. But, I used to feel them like, this person feels like this and is showing me this, but I don't know who they are because it just wasn't my thing. And
Yeah.
now, now I'm in a session and I'm like, "So you lost Paul apparently." And, and they're like, "How do you know about Paul?" I don't. He's here.
I don't want to know about Paul, but he's sitting in my office right now.
Yeah. He's waiting to come through. So
Oh
yeah.
my
So
gosh.
it's just, and now it's like, when my kids were growing up, they used to tell me that my house was very full, and I never understood that. And so they'd always get scared if mom wasn't home because my house was very full and overwhelming
Oh,
of
yeah.
spirits. And I didn't understand that because I was like, I don't know what you're talking. There's nobody here.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
now my house is really full. I don't
Well,
like it.
you get to have control over that too. You get to evict them. You get to tell them to go away. You get to, of course, as you know, but for
That's
those
what you
people
keep telling
listening,
me.
you get to put some boundaries in place. And yeah, we gotta work on that a little bit more
You
together.
know, I have two boundaries. I have a yes boundary and I have a no boundary. And my no boundary is always, and my yes boundary is always. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very much at the state. Fortunately, they you know, they're trying very hard, but I think that's my dad, right?
Mhm.
Because they're trying really hard to not overwhelm me,
Of course.
which is awesome. And
Well,
I'm
and I
not
think this
sure
is
that I went about this the right way because I had a whole lot more energy 35 years ago than I do today. So
right.
should probably let this happen back then.
Well, and the good thing is, you know, for those people listening too, is that the spirit world really does respect. I mean, they love us unconditionally, and they know when it's going to be overwhelming, when it
Yeah.
is going to be too much. They
Yeah.
actually don't want to scare us. We just
No.
need to help them remember that we are sensitive, that we're human, that
Yeah.
they're too intense sometimes, and
Yeah.
it's not rude, and it's not, you know, some people don't like to have, you know, say anything harsh or an authority with a
Yeah.
loved one because while they're dead, right, and they feel, well,
Yeah.
no, it to understand that when you speak with authority, it that spirit is energy.
What's your boundary?
It's spirit communicates energetically.
Yeah.
And so when we're communicating our boundary, we also need to speak with authority because
Yeah.
authority is an increase of energy, and they
Yeah.
recognize the increase of energy, and
Yeah.
they pay more attention. When we're talking really softly and really kind and quietly, there's energy, but it's not a huge pulsation or frequency that catches their attention. Like when we say no and stop
Yeah.
it and pull back and not today, you know, whatever
Yeah.
it
You
is,
know,
right?
I think for me, I can say for me too, I think the other thing is that I was very scared,
Of course.
right? You
Of
know, being a
course.
clairvoyant is something that I know. I've
Yes.
lived it my whole life. It's in my DNA, if you will. It's not something I really have to think about.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel very much in control of it, right? As I've mentioned, I'm a control freak. So I feel very much in control of it. And I think a part of, and it's not that because they were always there, you know, I could sense them, but I could sense them outside of my bubble, not inside of my
Not
bubble. So I
inside
could
your
sense
bubble.
them, I could feel them,
Yeah.
but I didn't communicate with them and I didn't take on them,
Right.
which I can't necessarily control now. Um, but I think it's also really important to understand that it doesn't matter how good you are at something or how long you've been doing something, or you're always going to grow and evolve. And what stops from doing anything is fear. What
Of course.
stopped me from doing medium work for 34 years was fear.
Me
Right.
too.
Don't miss it. I don't enjoy it. Right. I think I've always known that I wouldn't enjoy it. Like, I think I've deep down always known that I could do it if I wanted to, but that's kind of like, I know I could jump out of a plane with a parachute too. It doesn't mean I'm in
Right.
a hurry to
Right. But
go.
I think it's also one of the ways that the universe demonstrates purpose to us as well, because we have to, you know, what we thrive in and what lights us up and where we feel passionate about is an indication of purpose and direction for us to go. And so, you know, we can have these connection to the non-physical world. And just because we can communicate with spirit doesn't necessarily mean we're meant to be the one out there talking
Exactly.
and sharing the message as everything. It's about find where your passion is
Yes.
and accept the fact that you're a medium and utilize your connection to the non-physical world for
Yeah.
yourself so that you can be with
If
your loved
that's your
ones if
passion.
that's your passion, if that's
Right.
your passion.
And
But
that's the thing. For me, I have built this like crazy successful business focusing solely and completely on what I'm passionate about. And
right.
I've never been passionate about dead people. I mean, I'm one of those very lucky people. I haven't had a lot of loss in my life. You know,
Yeah.
my grandparents died. I was in my 40s when my grandparents died. And that was the first time that
Right.
anybody in my family had ever crossed over, right? So I also don't have that kind of loss. And I think that that's an important thing to pay attention to too. And you can tell me if I'm wrong in mediumship. It's just like I teach intuition. So I think that a part of why this is not my passion and a part of why this is just something I can do, not necessarily something I'm supposed to do, right? Use it as another one of my tools in my toolbox, but that doesn't, mean that that's what I'm supposed to do. Is my gifts, like everybody else's gifts, have gotten better because of experience. And and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but most mediums that I've come across have had a lot of loss in their life. They have experienced that loss fundamentally.
Yes, to a point, but I also know, there a vast majority. Again, I want to say that in my particular case, death surrounds me. Nolan often jokes that that the coroner and I have the same job description. We're here to prove how someone died, right? So there can be a lot of loss and a lot of trauma, a lot of really hard life experience that can bring someone forward and open up to it. But I also know a lot of mediums who have not had a lot of losses and who are very keen, very tuned in, and who feel very passionate and ignited by doing this work as well. So again, this is understanding, one of the foundations I teach within my programs is that we need to fully, in accepting who we are, we need to fully accept this part of ourselves as well. We need to accept the fact that we're a clairvoyant. We need to accept the fact that we're mediums. We need to find full acceptance. We don't need to tell anybody. The only person we ever need to admit it to is ourselves. But when we can own it, we can claim it, we can claim ourselves in a state of more wholeness. And that once we're, and it's, there's ways to share messages, there's ways to show up, but this is something that's been given to us. This is basically, and I want to say, and again, we've talked about this whole gift thing, but to look at it and understanding it's a capacity that we have to communicate. It's something that has been ignited inside of us for sometimes purpose. And the universe knows what it's doing with every single person. And so, and then how we choose to use it is our free will. That's our free will. Like we get to decide. We get to have a conscious 100%. Choice over if we want to talk, when, where, if, how, and anything. But it is about full acceptance.
I agree. I agree with you. The only thing I'd say is, for those of you that are out there doing this, that are trying to figure this out, literally my entire career is about showing you how to be the successful version of you, like literally using all your strengths, your abilities, your gifts, and showing you how to be crazy successful doing it, right? Emotionally, physically, financially, all of the above. And the one thing I'll say that I think is so important for people to understand is the more you try to keep what you can do quiet, the more hidden you try to keep this information, the less success you're ever going to have, because it's all of a sudden becoming your dirty little secret.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And the one thing about me in my field is it didn't matter. They could burn stakes on my front lawn. I was still a clairvoyant. They could, I made a vow that I was going to live this in everything that I am. Be damned, everyone. Be damned, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's where, and that's where you and I are so similar as well. When I look at the last 15 years, in my career as well, and it has been a big piece of it. It's like, regardless of what other people say, regardless of their expectations or the beliefs that are out there, this is what brings me joy. I love doing this work. I love mentoring and helping mediums. I love helping people to find their peace and healing. And so this is but owning it. And I think that we can. Here's the difference, and I can speak to this, is because for the vast, I was experiencing the spirit world for my whole entire life, and I, as well, like you, grew up in Catholicism. It was a secret. I had to hold it in. I had to keep it back. Couldn't tell anyone. I lived my life like that until I hit crises, where it was no longer. It became imperative, in order for me to live in a state of my own worthiness, in a state of wholeness, for me to be well and happy. I needed to heal my traumas and work through all of that, but I also could no longer deny this part of me, because in the denial was a part of the suppression. And so I needed to accept it. And once I could accept it, It doesn't matter after that if I ever tell anyone I'm a medium. I happen to be someone who has no problem doing it, but
Yeah.
it's like if you can stand in front of the mirror and you can look at yourself in the mirror and you can just really acknowledge and just say, I'm a medium and I love that about me. That's what matters the most.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Um, the more you believe something, the more you're willing to talk about something. Doesn't
Right.
matter what it is. Okay.
True. Yeah.
The more you believe in something, the more you're going to talk about it. It's not our nature to not want to stand up on the rooftops and talk about what we believe. So if you're not standing up on the rooftops talking about what you believe, you don't believe. And it's playing a role in your traumas. It's playing a fundamental role
Absolutely
in why you're going through the traumas that you're going through.
Yeah.
Right.
And I can speak to that too, because I think that my absolute state of what was crises and the dark depression that I was in and the suicidal aspect of it was because this was a part that wasn't fully being expressed. It absolutely
100%.
wasn't. It was so hidden and there was so much shame and there was so much fear around that as well. Okay, so we're coming up. So I mean, we can talk and talk and talk. And you guys, again, you want to tune into our YouTube channel, Beyond Belief, because these are the conversations we have. We have two different diverse kind of ways of looking, perspectives. We bring it all to the table. We agree on lots of stuff. We have lots of fun, lots of laughs.
We really don't agree on some stuff.
We don't agree on some stuff, and that's okay too. You know, it's like there's just so beautiful to have two different perspectives coming together.
But we love each other anyway and totally respect each other for it.
Oh my God, totally. Okay, so before there, one of the other things I did want to two questions I want to ask you as we kind of come into the wrap up here of it. What advice do you have for mediums, clairvoyants, healers, light workers, whatever word you want to put it? What advice do you have for them if they're hesitant to reveal this, if they're holding back and they feel really compelled and they feel really passionate, but they're not following through? You talked a little bit about it already, but what do you have to offer them in order to give them that bolstering sense of the fact that they can do this? What advice do you have?
You know, to be honest with you, I think you really need to look at why. You know, I can't stress enough. In 2024, this is a lot more open of a field, of an industry, of a lifestyle. There are way more people who are being very open and honest about searching. You know, it's no longer the woman's secret psychic parties that are taking place. I mean, I have just as many men clients as I do women clients. I have executive clients. I have executive corporations that actually hire me to help their staff with clairvoyant work. So I really think you got to ask yourself why, because what's getting in the way is you. Like if you believe that it exists, okay? So if you believe that being able to talk to dead people exists, if you believe that you can communicate with the other side, which I don't understand how you wouldn't, because that's literally where you're from, but that's a total different conversation. But if you believe that, then why would you keep it secret? It's like saying, you know, it's like I really love steak, but I can't tell anyone because I might eventually run across a vegetarian who's going to have a problem with it. Well, what? Like and everything gets so much more comfortable with time, right? Like the more you say something, the more comfortable you get. But I really think you need to ask yourself why. I mean, that's my fast answer. I have a lot of answers, but that's sort of the fast.
I think that's a real powerful one, and I think it's important because we need to know why we are doing this. Why is it
you got to live you?
You've got to live for you in this too, right? And
you do.
And because you are, and this is what I share in my programs all the time, is that the medium is the most important part of doing this work. You have not only in terms of your self-care, not only in terms of you beginning to, you know, move through your beliefs and the things that come up, but your why. Why? You know, what is your why?
Exactly. Being a clairvoyant is not what I do for a living. It is what my business is around.
Yes.
But it is not what I do for a living. It is who I am. So to me, telling somebody that I'm not a clairvoyant would be like telling them that I'm not a woman.
Right.
That I don't have boobs.
Right.
right? I mean, I get it. If I went and got a boob job, I might not tell everybody that they were fake,
right?
but I would still tell them I have boobs.
Still, right.
Right? Like, okay, so I may not tell everybody who taught me how to be comfortable as a medium, but I definitely tell everybody I'm a medium.
Right.
Right.
Yes. Totally love it. Okay, so one of the other questions I love to ask too is we have a lot of course, mediums who are tuning into this event in terms of helping understanding more about spirit communication, helping to really open minds and open hearts about the fact that
build successful businesses, be happy.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of people who participate in this event because they have lost loved ones, that they are really, and we know that grief is by far the hardest thing that we as humans have to go through. And it's such a tender and vulnerable time for people as they move through their grieving process. And I just wondering, what advice that you have for those who are going through their loss of a loved one right now.
Talk to them as much as possible. Whenever anybody would die in my family, for my kids and stuff, because I haven't had a lot of loss personally, I would have them write letters and have them put the loved one's favorite things in the casket or in the cremation. I did it with my grandfather too. I wrote him a letter and got him a little bottle of vodka and a little bottle of orange juice and cigarettes and a lighter. And because I don't want him to go without there, I got him some money, just make sure he's like living at large. So I would definitely suggest that, but I would suggest, I honestly talk to them all the time. Because they aren't missing you. They're still here. They're still here with you. So honor them. And the thing that I've noticed, and the thing, because what you guys don't know is one of the things that Bonnie's really helped me with is my mom and my sister, because I didn't necessarily know how to help them feel connected to my dad. I mean, I try to fight talking to dead people. So it was like, just do this. So I've really had Bonnie helping them. But the one thing that they tell me all the time now is they feel him all of the time because they are constantly talking to him. They are treating him like he's there. And that was something I always did. I'd go to a family reunion, I'd put my grandfather's chair down and I'd put my grandfather was a drinker, screwdrivers, orange and vodka. And I'd put his little stick thing that held his drink, and then I'd make an orange juice and vodka, and it would sit right there. And nobody was allowed to sit at that chair. That was Grandpa's. And occasionally I'd come and sip a little bit just so that I could show him I was sharing his drink. Yeah. Talk to them like crazy.
Yes.
Right? Feel like give yourself permission to feel them.
Mm-hmm. And that's just it. And that's the other piece too. A lot of people don't, necessarily uncertain if they can feel them. They feel so far away and gone, but they're not. The physical and non-physical worlds exist simultaneously. They're right here. They're right. Yeah. And so all we need to do is continue the conversation, continue to talk. And as you do that, and be willing to feel your sadness, and be willing. And as you do that, and as you talk to them, you'll also begin to feel their love as well. And their presence.
I think that's the big one too. You have to give yourself permission to mourn. That was the hardest thing for me, and for me, especially. So I'm assuming, especially if people are intuitive at all, that they go through this too. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand why I was struggling, because I know the other side, right? So I was not expecting to struggle at all, not even a little bit. And I actually had to take 2 weeks off of my business for the first time in years and do some serious trauma work, because it knocked me flat. Mm-hmm. Truthfully, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah. So you really have to honor how you feel.
Yeah. It's one of the modules in my program, we talk about grief, and that's exactly what it's about, is helping even we as mediums grieve. We're prone to grief. We have human emotions and human loss, and we need to allow for time in order for us to feel and move through that. Even though we are experiencing them in spirit, we still need to deal with the physical loss.
Well, and that really does come part and parcel. I grieve for clients all the time. I feel sadness for clients. I think about them all the time. You become a part of that process, right? My soul is just as invested with every person I work with as theirs is.
Yeah.
Just comes the package.
Yeah, it's a part of, I was gonna say it's a part
Yeah.
of the package.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, Carlin Ray, thank you so very much for
You're
your
welcome.
wisdom. I want to go ahead and turn to our chat room here
Questions?
for those who are joining us and asking for their questions here.
I like questions.
I know, so do I. Shauna saying you both are so fun. Thanks, Shauna.
Thanks, Shauna.
We do have
I
a
spend
lot of
most of
fun.
my time thinking I'm 5 sheets away from crazy, but I'll take one. I tell everybody that most people think I'm a psychic. I'm like, actually, I'm psychotic. I just turned it into a very successful psychic business. It's fine.
Right.
Right. I mean, do what you know.
Do
I'm
what
just
you do.
saying.
Exactly right.
Do what you know. I can show you how to make anything successful.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Questions, you guys, please, while we're here, anything that you
Ask me
have.
anything.
Yeah, anything that you would like to know, anything that would be of benefit for you. And even if you might even
Candace,
think it
you
might
have
be
a question. I can see
it
it
might
in your
even
eyes.
benefit for someone
I
else.
can
I know.
see it. You're looking at me like there's so much I want to say right now, but I'm not sure what to say.
Yeah, let's have it. Please put it into the chat. Let's go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I can call out a couple of my people on here too.
Yeah, you make
Got opportunity here.
Students, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so hard on my students. So you guys are so lucky.
Veronica, you were going to be one of them that I was going to call out, honey.
Okay.
So she's asking tips for crazy success in business. What would be your top
tips
three?
For crazy success in business? Your brand needs to exude your personality. You have to understand this is so important. Your personality is what's going to build your business. Your personality is your brand. Okay. Mm-hmm. You need to be a completely authentically you, and you need to be so proud to be, hi, beautiful. You need to be so proud to be completely authentically you. You know, there is this lovely, I don't know if you've heard of this woman. I wish I could remember her name because she's a client of mine. I feel so bad right now. But anyways, she's rainbow loving, stand-up comedian, medium. And she has literally built a business going and doing live shows with her and her wife. And they're on the guitar and they're singing and she's doing medium readings in these live shows. This woman is killing it. She's got 2 books out. Man, if I'd have had her knowledge to be authentically you when I first started this, man, my car would be so much nicer than it already is. I'm just saying.
Right. But you're right, because you are your brand, your personality. You know, it's like, this isn't about trying to fit in the mold and trying to be based on what is even in traditional marketing, what they're telling you.
Yeah. You know what else?
Have to be you.
You know what else, sweetheart? You are not in competition with anybody.
Right.
Okay. You are not competing with another person. You are simply allowing yourself to do what you were brought here to do. Right? You are giving yourself permission. That is such a big step. Such a big step.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But also, you guys, like literally, find out from Bonnie. Success in this industry is probably the easiest industry to succeed at, which is why I do not understand why there are so many poverty-stricken people in this industry, right? Yeah. Like I'll go do big live talks at shows and stuff where it's the same people that I was doing psychic fairs with 30 years ago. They're still doing these psychic fairs. And I'm of course standing up there getting paid, $150,000 to be there to do a talk. And they're looking at me like, oh, do you have a booth too? I'm like, oh, at a booth in 25 years. Are you are you literally still physically like you're here do readings? Yeah. Really? Like really here? Oh my Lord, right? Like, because they don't have the confidence. They just don't believe in what they're doing. This is not a poverty business. The universe did not put you here to struggle. Every struggle that you have is yours, not theirs.
Yeah.
So important.
And the universe is going to conspire with you based on what, it's like you're jump, the trust. As soon as you move forward, your wildest, biggest dreams, the universe has got you. And so this is a matter for you just to continue to show up, to lean into this and let yourself go. And you know what, this is where I'm saying, call upon your loved ones on the other side. They want you to succeed at this too. So you know what?
They do.
Put them to work
and figure out your brand.
My dad said, Sorry, my
Go ahead.
dad said to me said to me at one point, there's only so much card playing and vodka drinking that he can do on the other side. So
Exactly.
he was a successful businessman. So he
Exactly.
says, like, give me something to do from this side, right? So we
100%.
can ask our loved ones to help
Oh, for
us
sure. They
with
don't
all
just
of
help
that
with
too.
poker.
No, they don't.
They
No,
do
they
help with
don't.
poker, just so you know, just not just.
Just not just.
Just not just. But
Yeah.
also, you know, I have two taglines in my business. One is, if you want something never had, you must do something you've never done to achieve it. And the one that I've had literally since the day I opened my doors is, I'd rather be wrong and have you in the right place than be right and have you in the wrong. So it's not about being right. I don't give a crap if I'm accurate, which is why I'm so accurate, because that's not, I don't care. What I care about is how you're going to be at the end of your time with me. What are you going to do with your life at the end of your time with me? Because that is literally what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So don't stress about those kind of things at all.
Yeah.
That's a waste of energy. You are going to be wrong. Just so you know, you are going to have sessions where you're totally wrong.
And as I said, you know what, the number one thing, if you could just be willing to get it wrong, just be willing to get it wrong. Like, just throw it out there, give it your all, try it. It does, who cares if it lands or not? Be willing to do it.
The great thing about being wrong is you learn so much more.
You learn lots, but you're going to find out in your willingness to do it, when you can drop all of that resistance, you're going to be right the majority of the time.
And every time you're wrong, you're going to learn so much that you will influence 20 new clients that you run across. You will be so much more right because you allowed yourself to be wrong.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Okay. Another question coming in from Shauna. Shauna says, what do you think would happen if you leaned into your mediumship gifts? What would come of that, Carlin?
You know what, Shauna? Is this being posted like on YouTube and everything? Like, do I have to bleep what I'm about to say? Like, can I just like pretend with the third finger that I'm using the second? You know, with unconditional love, I really want to tell you where to go and how far to get there. You know, honestly, okay, so in fairness, I am leaning into it.
She is.
And what it's really doing is that it's actually changing my direction. So it's because of the mediumship, I'm actually a lot more drawn now to make a significant difference in the people in this industry. That's what significantly changed. Is before this, I wouldn't allow this industry anywhere near me. Now, I apparently need to be right in the thick of it because all the dead people are saying I have to.
Right. They're like, okay, we got to put her together with Bonnie. We'll get through to her. We're just going to give her Bonnie and see what happens.
And a whole bunch of other intuitives. And so that's really what's made a difference. But it really is just making what I do better. But I don't want to admit that because then they're right. And I don't know if you've discovered this about me, but I don't like it.
Right.
I mean, in every other aspect of my life, I could be right or I could be happy. But in my industry, I'm just right. Okay.
You're just right. Yeah, exactly.
You can't tell I have an attitude at all, can you?
Here's another great question from Julie. Do you feel that outside influences affect our perception, abilities, our connection, our confidence?
So typically, outside influences improve mine. Right? I find outside influences to be challenging. So that challenge sort of ups my game, if you will. I don't think anything can influence your perception and abilities unless you allow it. So
that's what I was going to say.
You know, because I'm so loud and proud, you know, I've been out for so long. I sound like I'm a lesbian. I'm totally pro-lesbian, just for the record, because if anybody's going to understand what it's like to have to come out of your closet. Hello, I came out of my closet in the 90s. I'm telling you, it is worth it. I hope you're writing a book. Well, it's definitely unique. Let me tell you, I am, and it's going to be interesting. But as long as you're like loud and proud, like just be you, then the outside influences, they lose all power. The only power that exists is power we give.
Yeah. This is about this is really confidence comes within yourself. And so
100%.
don't give any attention to it. My greatest advice on that is I've always focused solely on what goes on in my sessions with my clients and not about the outside influences. And I agree that I think things like when I feel nervous, when I'm feeling, if I'm stepping on stage in front of a group of 150 people to do a group reading, and I might be a little bit, hesitant or nervous on it, that's not, I'm not focusing on the 150 people. I'm focusing on the one person who needs to hear the message, the one person who's going to receive this. And so when we understand, and that pressure or that energy, that influence actually causes me to show up. I'm like, okay, it becomes that, it's almost like the fear bolsters things for me. And I know now it's like, now I need to show up. I need this to be successful. I need to help these people.
Yeah.
Right. And so it really shifts it for me. So I agree that the outside influences actually really help with it.
Yeah. One of the things that I also, I am very, very, very honest. Okay. I live unconditionally honest. And so I have no secrets about anything in my life, just for the record. I expose it all before anybody can. But so that's one of the things that makes it different too for me is that, like, so for an example, if I'm in front of an audience, I mean, I deal with massive stage fright. I have huge anxiety issues. I'm an actual introvert. Like, if you met me as a person, you'd have no idea I'm Carlin Ray at all. But I am so open and honest. So I'll actually go on to that stage and look at everybody and go, just so you guys all know, like I'm shaking like a windstorm. Like, just so you guys know, scared shitless, have no idea if I can even answer one question today. So, I mean, let's check it out.
Let's try it.
Let's see what we can do. Right. Like, I'm just so, and everybody's so busy laughing at me and they feel like I can feel their love right away and I can feel their instant support right away and everything in my world just calms down and then I'm go time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Okay, here's another one. Candace is asking, how do you take control of your timeline? I keep feeling knocked down. I struggle to put my why into words. I can speak and I can feel them. I am struggling to be on the same page at the same time.
So, but what time are you talking about, baby? Like, are you talking about building your business? Are you talking about what you're doing? Like, I'm going to say this with total love, sweetheart. That entire statement sounds like a whole lot of excuses and not nearly enough. Let's do this. They have asked me to bring a program to the world. Okay, so here's my thing, sweetheart. Here's my thing. Beautiful. Beautiful. My beautiful girl. Okay. If they're asking, what else you?
Right.
See, typically when the dead people that I don't like to talk to say, KJ, you should do something, I'm like, hey, okay. They know more than me.
Yeah.
They know more than me, sweetheart. You're dealing with fears. First, it's not your program. So I don't know what you're scared of. You are literally just the prophet. And let's face it, if every prophet was scared, we wouldn't have, 5,000 different versions of a Bible.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not your program, sweetheart. It's theirs. And they wouldn't be telling you to build it if it wasn't going to be successful. So, baby girl, get out of your own damn way. Get out of your way.
One of the things that Carlin Ray said to me a long time ago, because I, of course, have my mediumship program and I have 4 different levels of certification with it. And it really was in a place of questioning. And she had said to me, which was this, it just like really got me, was the fact that they would never have brought it to you and through you if it wasn't going to be successful. So I've held on to that. It's just that simple. So let it come through you. Give yourself as much time as what you possibly need. This is not about pressure. This is when you feel connection, when you feel like there's something that needs to come through, just let it come through. Let it come through first before you figure out all the other details. Put it into whatever words that you write it out for, like first, let it come out first, and then go and revisit it, and then look at how you can word things, etc. But don't try to get it figured out from A to Z. It's like, when I'm writing my book, I'm just in the process of just going into an agent and for my book. And one of the things in there too is we never write a book from start to finish. We never start at the beginning of the chapter right to the end. It's all over the place. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little, and all of my essays, not one, it never came into the order of the book, but I let it come through. It's no different with my mediumship programs. The modules and that's been created over all of these years, I let it come through first. I let it come through. And then actually, quite honestly, and those who are tuned in and listening, they also know those who have jumped in when I said, hey guys, I have a new program. Who wants to come on board? I'm like, I don't know what we're talking about. I don't know how this program is going to roll. I'm just going to open up and I'm bringing it through. And I've facilitated so many programs without even having it through first.
So one of the things that I actually forced Bonnie to do, I'm going to share you guys a little secret here. Because one of the things, because Bonnie has always been the, if you build it, they will come. Mm-hmm. And I have always been of the, you better show the hell up so that I've got an excuse and I'm getting paid to build it. So,
right.
So I'm always the, you show up first, I'll build second, right?
Right.
And so I've made her actually do that a few times, and it's extremely successful, just for the record.
It is,
because you don't realize that you're getting in your own way, right?
Yeah.
The reason that I do that, so I'm just going to explain this, you can understand. The reason why I sell the program before I ever create the program is because I am truthfully an absolute chicken. Like, I am total chicken. So if I actually try to build the program first, I'm going to be 100 and tell you that I'm still on chapter 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's actually how I force myself, because as soon as I channel that this is what I got to create, if people are counting on me, see, I can let myself down till I'm blue in the face, but I cannot let someone else down. I can't do it. So that's actually why I do that, right? Mm-hmm. It's if you want something you never had, you got to do something you've never done. So don't do this the same way that you've done anything else in your life.
Yeah. That's exactly. This is not, there's nothing traditional about this kind of work. Nothing at all. One more question coming in before we wrap up, because of course our time goes by so very quickly. This one coming in from Amanda. Where is the most successful platform right now? Carlin Ray, Facebook, YouTube. Where do you spend your time? Beyond belief.
So important to understand, I am probably the highest paid clairvoyant in all of Canada still to this day. And I have maybe 4,000 followers on Facebook. I couldn't tell you the last time I was on Instagram. I don't have a TikTok account, even though apparently TikTok says that I do, but I don't have it. I have no idea what it is. So maybe they could let me know the password. And I've only just started YouTube with Bonnie, right? So your most powerful platform, first of all, is people. So that's the very first thing, which is, again, why you have to talk about who you are and what you do all of the time. Okay. I get clients, literally, I'm sitting there getting my nails done. Someone's looking at me like, oh my God, I love your glasses, or I love this. And then of course, what's the very next question they're going to ask me? Can you all guess what's the very next question? Question 2, everybody asks, so what do you do for a living? I'm funny you should ask. I'm Canada's top clairvoyant and a psychologist and a therapist and a coach, right? It's like, I get so many clients that way. Okay.
Yeah.
That is your platform. But this, when we're talking about actual platforms, this is very important. Okay. If you are uncomfortable being on screen, make your platforms podcasts, blogs, places that you can talk versus be seen, that you can be heard versus be seen. You really have to figure out where you're the most comfortable, the way that you're the most comfortable getting your message out, right? So the only thing I do with Instagram, and everybody seems to love it, is I am like known, everybody calls them KJ-isms. I have more quotes in my life. The universe throws more quotes and things at me than anybody's ever seen. So I throw quotes out there all the time and everybody's like, oh, where would you find that? I'm like, Grandpa, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, you know, Instagram's great. I am not a fan of TikTok personally, but I will tell you, this is important, because if I was starting out as you guys, man, I'd be all over TikTok. I don't care what they're doing with China. Don't care. Right. It is a great way for people to get to know you. And frankly, China already owns all of my data information. So I don't even care anymore. Whatever. Right. So, but the first part is finding the way you're the most comfortable, how you communicate the most. Okay. How you communicate the best. That is how you deal with any platform.
Oh my gosh. So good. So good.
Yeah.
Like, really. Thank you. Oh my gosh. This has been wonderful. And go ahead.
Are you, so I'm just going to let you guys know, I've just started a free thing. I don't do free, so Bonnie knows this. But you guys can all check it out on Facebook. Come find me on Facebook. I'm actually creating a group to help people in this industry become very successful. So go check it out, go look, go find me. You can become a part of the group. You can ask me all kinds of questions about how to do it, but you definitely want to be very careful, because if you ask me, I'll answer.
Right? And careful what you ask for, because you
Yeah,
just might
because
get
I'm
it,
very
right?
blunt.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
very
yeah.
blunt.
All right. Well, I love you for that. And I love, honestly, everyone for coming on and being a part of our conversation tonight. As always, Carlin Ray, I mean, obviously, I love you
I
so
love you
very much.
too.
And
I
everybody
love you
who's
too.
tuned in. Now, tomorrow night, I have the pleasure of a spotlight interview with Sean Leonard. Of course, and
Who's Sean Leonard?
I know.
Because
We have
I
a
like the
special.
name.
Do you?
I like the name. What does he do?
He's a medium. I
Oh,
know he's one of Canada's finest, as well. So anyway, I'm really
he's got
excited
a
to bring
crazy smile.
he's going to be on tomorrow night. Special night tomorrow night with him at 6:30 as opposed to 6 o'clock. We had a little scheduling coordination we needed to
Snafu?
make, but he will. No, he was in order to fit us in. So
Nice.
he definitely will be here. Please come on, join us live. I'm so excited to share in conversation with him, and of course, as we continue moving forward with a few nights left of a medium's world with some other fabulous mediums coming on board
Oh, I'm
following
so
that.
glad you
So.
did this for all these guys, honey. It's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always so much fun. So
Yeah.
much fun. All
Thank
right.
you, everybody, for getting to
Thank
know me. It was
you.
wonderful to see all of you. I hope you guys do amazing.
They will. They will, without a doubt. All
No
right.
doubt.